So today's talk is on the divinity code and how do you read Hindu mythology. So it's slightly academic, but I thought I don't get an opportunity to have discussions on rather academic subjects and slightly going deeper into the method in which you try to understand. The problem is today, of course, we live in times where everybody seems to know a lot about Hinduism on the internet. And the further you are from India, somehow the knowledge of Hinduism becomes sharper and better, and most people really follow 19th century vocabulary. But of course, they call those who read 21st century vocabulary colonial sepoys. So we live in these very strange times where people really don't understand the meaning of words. Words have lost meaning. It's also post-structural, post-modern, so everything can be sort of dismantled and destroyed. But let's try to understand, if you were to be given the opportunity that you have to study Hinduism, how would you do it? What is the method that you would follow? And when you have this word in front of you, Hinduism, and you're saying, okay, I want to understand Hinduism, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? And most people will say, what book should I read? And that's the first problem, because there is no book to read. So if there is no book to read, then because we are conditioned that a religion needs to have a book, a thinking pattern. Then of course people say, don't call it religion and all that. It doesn't matter. Just use it in the simplest possible ways. Imagine you are going to talk to the Maasai people in Africa or the Aborigines in Australia. How would you understand their religion? How do they see the world? They don't have a book. You go to the Kalahari desert and you meet the Bushmen there. They don't have a book, but they seem to know a lot about life and the world. How will you figure it out? What will you do? And that's the mind you should start thinking. If I go to Chhattisgarh and talk to the Bhil people, do they need to have a script to tell me how they look at the world? What is their views of life? These are questions that we... So, this is the question we need to ask ourselves. How do you understand how people see the world? That's the question. It's not about religion, what do you believe, what do you follow. The question to be asked is, how do human beings see the world? Because at what point do you say that humans have appeared on the scene? When you're studying ancient history and you're going deeper and deeper, at what point do you say that, okay, we've stopped looking at animals and we've started looking at humans? When does paleontology, that is the study of fossils, end and archaeology, the study of human civilization, begin? At what point does it shift that, oh, this is an animal, but this is not an animal? And you have to start at that point, and you'll realize the beginning of what we call humans, we will say the first thing that people look for is fire. There has to be a hearth, a fireplace, because humans control fire. The moment you see a fireplace, it is the birth of humans. It's the birth of collaboration, people sitting around it. Now you see fire for the first time, they're looking at fire, and that's the first indicator of, okay, something civilized, something is happening, something has shifted. It's not the animal kingdom, because you will not find a group of animals sitting around fire other than Lion King or something, some Disney production. But they won't. Or you'll go to cave paintings, and you ask yourself, what are these cave paintings? Because they are drawn in some, if you look at the cave paintings, they are not done like a Pundol art gallery. It's done in the darkest corners of the caves, far, far away. If you see, very dark, and you have to ask yourself, what are they trying to communicate? Why are they doing these paintings so far away? That is when you start appreciating human mind. Because human mind, when you become human, unlike an animal, the first thing is you are exposed, what you get, and of course this has happened over thousands of years, is you have a new part of the brain emerging called the forebrain. the forebrain, which allows you to imagine. This is what separates humans from animals. Some animals do imagine, but only under stress. Humans imagine all the time. In fact, meditation practice is about how not to imagine. But imagination is what makes us human. And what does imagination do? At a fundamental level, it tells you there is an alternate life out there. There is an alternate, this life which you're experiencing. So we are experiencing life. Some animals will have memory of this life. So you'll remember what happened in the past. It may be a distorted memory, but there is a memory of the past. But in humans, you have a completely alternate imagined reality. You can imagine a world where there is food all the time. You don't have to go hunting and foraging for food. You can imagine a time when predators are not attacking you all the time. Animals can't do that. We can imagine a world where food is easily available and we are safe. No tiger is going to attack us. No worm is going to ride up our nostrils. We don't have to be worried that a spider will enter our ear while sleeping. Nothing. We genuinely believe we'll be safe and we'll be well fed. This imagination, this ability to imagine an alternate reality is where humanity starts. That is where you say this is heaven. And it starts, we don't know when, it started a long time ago. You imagined that world. That is where mythology starts. Because, is it true? Because I can imagine it. I can feel its presence. It's there. That is where magic starts. And you want to get access to this imagined world and you wonder where it is. Because you want to feel, because in this real life, you seem to have no meaning. You are no different from the plant or the animal. So there's a plant which gets chomped off and cut, and nobody remembers the tree in the forest from where you gathered fruit. Nobody remembers the name of the deer you killed to eat. And the human being is saying, is that my fate too? He can imagine a world without him. And you suddenly feel insignificant. I don't matter. The sense of invalidation creeps in and you seek meaning. The moment you start seeking meaning is the birth of religion. And you have to understand whether it's a bushman in the Kalahari, whether it's an aborigine in Australia, whether it is an investment banker in New York, whether it is a person traveling in a local train in Mumbai, each one of us, like our ancestors, has imagination and the fear of being rendered irrelevant. We are all seeking meaning. How do I give meaning to my life? And we give meaning to ourselves through the stories we tell each other. That is why stories play an important role. Stories, but stories didn't come in the day one, right? Because language didn't evolve in day one. So even before stories, what emerged? What emerged before stories is what we have to ask ourselves. If you couldn't speak, now look at a child. What is the first thing that a child does? How does it communicate when it doesn't have words? And you'll realize that the first communication is gestures. We communicate through gestures. It's the easiest communication in the world. Even now in space, when you go and you can't hear, you do gestures. Underwater, people use gestures. Gestures, so I will say, don't be afraid, I'll feed you. So the gods talk with gestures. From gestures come rituals. Namaste. It's a gesture. It's a simple body communication. I don't need language. If you meet someone from another country and you don't speak the same language, you can still communicate. We become over-expressive, right? When you're talking to someone who doesn't understand your language, because through body you're communicating. This is what Shiva is doing when he's doing Nataraj dance. He's communicating using his body. That's all it is. It's communication. Or you draw something so that even when you're gone, that is there, a symbol, an artwork. You try to explain to people what you feel is life, what have you seen. Imagine, I'm imagining something beautiful. How do I tell you what I'm imagining? I don't have words, so I draw it. That's what cave paintings do. I want you to see it. I have imagined a creature which is half human and half horse. It can only happen in the imagination. That is how when they see cave art, they realize they were seeing things that don't exist in nature. The imagination was being expressed. So art comes into the picture. When you study, when the archaeologists are looking at human civilization, they'll say, you know civilization, one is of course the hearth, the second is pottery, because that lasts for a long time. Tools. But all that is functional. You're doing it to survive. The magic starts when you see things that don't make sense. The magic starts with a burial ritual. Animals don't bury the dead. I mean, they do. Some of them have certain rituals. It's not like a hard and fast rule. It's like a transition. But burial ritual, you'll suddenly find a body buried in a place. The orientation is north or south, east or west. The body is in a fetal position. Hands are crossed. There are animals next to them. There is food kept next to them. And you suddenly realize, why are they doing that? It is because they have a story. They have a story about what happens after death. That's how you know they had a story. Funeral rituals are the best way to figure out people's religious beliefs. They are myths, how they imagine the world. If we were truly rational beings, when a person died, you would throw the body in the garbage or give it to them industrial thing to do something with your body. Recycle them maybe. But we don't. When a person dies, we do things to the body because it reflects our understanding of life and meaning. So when you study the ancient arts, you start understanding, oh, funeral rituals are happening. How do I understand the story that they are telling? All that helps you understand a faith. So when I want to understand Hinduism, I don't begin with Rig Veda. When people say, I want to read the Rig Veda, try reading it. It's the most boring document on earth. Somebody might lynch me for saying that, but the thing is, those who do it don't read. It's nothing to do with, because when you say, look at from a historical and a geographical point of view, when you talk of Rig Veda, you're really talking about the Gangetic Plains. You're not talking about Odisha. You're not talking about Bengal. You're not talking about Karnataka. When you say 3,000 years ago, what was happening in Karnataka? 4,000 years ago, what was happening in what we call today Kerala? We speak of India as if it's one homogeneous entity. If you have friends from the Bunt community, that is the southern part of Karnataka, and you ask them, if you go to their villages, they will talk about something called Bhuta, the Bhuta rituals, or the Nagamandala rituals. You go there and you see the ritual and say, okay, how is it linked to the Vedas? They are folk rituals. You go to every house and you will find a swing. On the swing, you will find something kept. This is the Bhutas. And you say, what is Bhuta? Is it Hindu? Is it non-Hindu? Is it Aryan, Dravidian, Vedic, non-Vedic? We are trying to classify it in boxes without experiencing what it means. Or if you see a Thayyam performance in Kerala, the Thayyam performances, of course, nowadays has become a tourist attraction. But they are not tourist attraction. They are not meant for tourists. They are not meant for outsiders. These are performances done where the gods enter the bodies of people. And they speak to the people. And they address their insecurities and their quest for meaning. And it is in the Thayyam performances in itself, you have to understand what is going on, what is the story being told, how is the story giving meaning to people, and why do we now call it a Hindu practice? All this has to be understood. And remember, we're talking about thousands of communities in India, not one or two. When you go to Rajasthan, you have to understand the stories of Pabuji of Herd, or the stories of Guga, Teja. South India would have never heard those stories. If you go to northern Tamil Nadu, you will find temples of Draupadi. And you will find her doorkeeper. Her doorkeeper is a guy called Ravutan. And what Ravutan means basically is a Muslim horse rider. How do you explain that? What is that? So the rider is a Muslim horse rider. When you go to Sabrimala, you have to go through a temple of, or the dargah of a Vavara Swami. And that's a Muslim peer. So all this has to be considered when you are trying to understand, when you're decoding Hinduism, this is as valuable as the Rig Veda. But usually when you write a book on Hinduism, you begin with Harappa, and then you go with Vedas, and then the great battle starts, is whether Harappan was Vedic and Vedic was Harappan, and they get lost in the vortex without understanding what is the big story. What is the idea that unites a people? What is the vision that is common? The vision that a politician will offer is based on hatred. Because the easiest way to combine a people is to hate someone else. But that's not what creates a tribe. Tribes are not created in hatred. They are created in meaning. We are bound by meaning. And stories, symbols, and rituals, the three pillars of mythology, communicate meaning. So when you look and want to study India, you have to keep looking at these symbols. And you will understand meaning. You go to Pandharpur and you will see the statue of Vitthal, and the name is Pandharpur. Pandharpur is the white one, Panduranga. Panduranga is white color. But Krishna is black, no? If Krishna is dark and black, why is he called Panduranga? Until you realize that the area is full of Shiva temples. And Shiva is considered the white complexioned god. And the name just shifted. That's how religions evolve. Panduranga happened. Suddenly Vaishnava statue comes and becomes Panduranga. Pandra Rangacha Krishna doesn't make sense. Krishna has to be black. Except in television serials, where he is now light eyes. So, and six-pack. Today, the most important divine code is six-pack. The thing is, how do you make sense of this? And that is the journey that I love to take. I like to take these journeys and ask fundamental questions. And the fundamental question, what is common in humans? You have to understand what is common in humans and then what separates them culturally. So you begin actually by studying rocks and inanimate objects. You look at an inanimate object and then you look at an animate organism and say, what is the difference between an inanimate object and an organism? And it's only one thing. The organism is hungry for life. It's seeking life. So it is seeking food. It is looking for food and it doesn't want to be consumed. It consumes but doesn't want to be consumed. Consumes and doesn't want to be consumed, but it will be consumed one day. Eaters and eaten. That's what nature is about. Your value comes because somebody consumes you. And you are spending your entire life looking for value to consume. So the layer starts with objects that are not hungry, to organisms that are hungry, to organisms that can imagine, that is humans, And because they can imagine, they are seeking meaning. Who am I? What am I? What is the purpose of life? And therefore they are creating stories. And because there are different kinds of stories around the world, you have different communities. And therefore human beings will never have a common story. For example, when somebody says, let's create a declaration of human rights, which all humans should agree on, have you asked the person who lives in the Amazon forest about it? Why have you assumed what rights he should have or he wants? Who made you the spokesperson of all humans? Why does the man with technology assume he inherits the earth? This is important because the person in the Amazon tribe who has lived there for 50,000 years has a story that he follows. You may not like it. It may not be up to your benchmark, but it's their worldview, it's their story. Likewise, when people talked about Hinduism, it was a story that differentiated Hinduism. What was the story? And it's not something that emerged in one day. It's like an open source document that emerged over time. And today we are trying to figure out, is there one story or are there many stories? And you realize there are many stories with some common themes around it. The most common theme which differentiates Hindu stories is this: there is no happily ever after. Okay, let me make it less depressing. There is no ever after. Nothing lasts forever. This is the one idea, if at all I were to be asked, what is that one idea that makes India, India, or Hinduism? Hinduism is a crude word which we use, but I prefer to use the word India because the idea which emerged from the Indian subcontinent, which is unique, is the idea of rebirth. That's the idea, nothing else, one word. Because it says even death is not permanent. How do I know this? David, why would you come to this conclusion? Not through a book. You'll have which text? Funeral rituals. When you live only one life, your body is special. So what do you do with the body that lives only once? This body is special. You will embalm it. You will entomb it. You will make mummies. You will make tombs. You will make pyramids. Because that one life is precious. And after that, at most, there is an afterlife. Eternal afterlife. There is no coming back. There is no coming back. You live and then you die and go to another world maybe, but forever. So the body becomes precious. And therefore the body will be entombed and embalmed. You go to America. When you go to America, what do you see? When you die, no matter which religion you follow, the body is filled with chemicals. And then they'll bury it under the ground full of those chemicals. It's a strange policy which is there in America. You have to do that. So forget about environmental friendly and all that. Embalming is important. Dressing up well is important. How many of you all have seen 6 feet under? And why is dressing up important? Because there's a story. When the day of judgment comes, you have to look very good in front of God. So dressing up becomes important. Funeral rituals are different for men and women. In some cultures, the face of the woman is covered. In some cultures, the face of the woman is not. What is the most common Hindu ritual? It's not a standard Hindu ritual. Cremation. You cremate the body and then you take the ashes and the bones and put it in a river. So fire and water. No trace is kept. Nowadays politicians want to be remembered so that they can scare us forever. But usually there should be no trace. You will never find statues of old kings, unlike Roman kings. Not that Indians were not vain, but it was bad luck. If you create the face of your ancestor, they will never go away. Can you imagine the mother-in-law returning? Tum jao. So the Hindu rituals would have this symbol. I don't know how many of you all have seen the symbol. You take the water and pour it this way for the Pitra Paksh. Now Pitra Paksh will come after 10, 15 days. It means I'll feed you, but please stay away. Stay away. So the funeral ritual is my first code. It's my biggest code to understand Hinduism. Because it tells me that nothing lasts forever. The story is, of course, elaborately told. Ganga comes from the heaven. Because immortality is in the heaven, it comes to earth and it gives you a chance to come back. The story is a famous story that once upon a time there was a king, his son, they were performing a sacrifice, the horse was stolen by Indra, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. At the bottom line of the story is, I get a second chance. A third chance, a fourth chance. This is not the only life. There is another chance, and another, and another. It's a different way of thinking. Right or wrong, we don't know because death remains a mystery. Unfortunately. Death is the most irritating thing in the world. You can be the richest man in the world and you can't delay it. You can't say, Yamraj, thoda kal aana. Aaj deal karna hai. Makes no difference. And nobody knows what happens after death. Except the Gurujis, of course. But this whole thing of death, when you read Dante's Inferno, the Divine Comedy, or you read Garud Purana, they're all trying to explain what is happening after death. And each one is coming up with their own stories. We don't know, but there are these stories which give the illusion of order so that you can make sense of your life. Indian thought's uniqueness is the rebirth. It manifests repeatedly. In the Vedic period, it was expressed in this way. The Yagyashala, where the Yagya would be held, after the Yagya is conducted, the entire Yagyashala is burnt to the ground, so there's no trace of it. You must not leave a trace of the Yagyashala, because everything is impermanent. So when Buddha comes up with the line that change is the only constant, it's not a new idea. It's an idea that people are talking about. Funeral rituals. When I go to Hong Kong or China and people say that there is Buddhism in China and they believe in rebirth, I will only ask one question. What do you do with the dead? And they'll say, we cremate. And I said, what happens to the ash? And if you go to Hong Kong, there's an entire building where the ash is kept in urns. And on special days of ancestor days, you go to meet your ancestors. Because China is based on ancestor worship, on which rebirth has been superimposed. It is an alien idea which came into China. It is not a Chinese idea. The Chinese idea is ancestor. Very important part of Chinese culture. Shrines are based on ancestors with those name strips and everything. In India, it was rebirth. That's the unique thing. So when you study rebirth, now what is the significance of this? Day to day. Today how it is. Vedic Kala I know. But today Ganesh Chaturthi is going to come. Ganpatis, from the river banks, clay is used, a statue is made, you worship the statue and then you dunk it in the river. It comes and it goes. It comes and when you read the Ramayana and Mahabharata, they'll say they worship Shiva. How did they worship Shiva? They would go to the sand beach and they would collect it together and then make a mound and say this is Shiva. They'll worship it. At the end of it, they'll pour water and it's gone. Satyanarayan Mahapuja. You'll get a pot, you'll put it with flowers, you'll put a coconut, you'll put banana leaves, you'll worship it, you'll chant the name of God, God arrives, you worship, and then at the end of it, you will throw it in the sea. No trace of the puja, no artifact left. It doesn't exist because we will also not exist. It is through the ritual gesture. So Shiva's dance, he performs and then he stops. Where is the dance? It came and it went. It occupied space and time and disappeared. Nothing lasts forever. So Indians don't do long-term planning. Tension क्या है? It doesn't matter anyway. End में crematorium में ही जाने का ना? See, it's a very strong idea in India. Don't underestimate it. It is the fundamental Indian idea. That's why Indians did not use stone structures. Stone structures in India start being built on a grand scale only 1,000 years ago. Before 1,000 years, you'll find some structures here and there, very few for the kind of wealth India had. Very few. Caves, cave paintings, stupas. Buddhism, ironical, right? Nothing lasts forever. But when Buddha dies, everybody fights for his bones. There is a war and there's a division of his bones. Buddha said, kuch last nahi karta hai, but they wanted to fight for his bones. And they say Ashoka built 84,000 stupas, where the bone relic is kept, and they put a mound on which they put symbols, and people go to round and round around it. It becomes a permanent structure. It is amongst the earliest permanent structures in India, the stupa. Temples came much later. Stupa. Until then, it was all impermanent. And that's the irony of India. The monk who talked the most about impermanence gave rise to permanent structures. The stupa. It is so interesting, right? When you think about it. And of course, then everybody got jealous and उनके पास स्तूपा है तो हमारे पास मंदिर होगा. मंदिर वही बनाएंगे. Old line. This is how you understand Hinduism. Rebirth is the word. Rituals are the word. And then you start understanding, okay, what is the implications of rebirth? Let's look at the implications of rebirth. It means that when you are born, you don't come with a clean slate. If you live only once, you come with a clean slate, you live your life, and it's over. It's one great life or bad life. Now you want to live that one life in the perfect way. One life. So you want to live it perfectly, wonderfully, greatly. How do you live it? How do you do it? What do you do? So the Greeks said you have to be extraordinary. You have to do something special and spectacular and great, and you will become a hero. Kuch karna chahiye. Junoon. The word is junoon. We have to do something which makes you, that's why Alexander, Sikandar, he does something extraordinary and becomes great. And that is what we're told, be like a hero, be like a hero. In the Middle East, they said, we will tell you how to be great. This is a rule book, follow it. And this rule book, of course, shifted over time. Hammurabi had a code, Anunnaki had a code, Mesopotamians had a code, Zoroaster had a code, Moses created a code, David created a code, code, but code became important. You have to follow these rules. Rules became important. One life you want to live it the right way. I want a manual to tell me. At the end of it, have I done it or not? There is a judge. So the Greeks had judges, 3 judges, to decide whether you were special, extraordinary. Like we have 3 judges in a talent show. 3 judges. So you have the Greeks had 3 judges. Minos, Rhadamanthus. So these 3 judges all the time. And then you're like, and Sarpedon, 3 good. And then when you come to the Middle East, you move away from the Greek world and you come to the Middle East, there is only one judge. One life, one judge, judgment day. Today I will decide whether you're going to heaven or hell. Simple. So the judge will decide whether you have lived your life correctly. It's exactly like the school report card. 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, chal, heaven. So purgatory, heaven, hell, judgment. Story has been created. Book has been given. India, rebirth. I can't create rule books because every life you've come, there is no blank slate. You come with some baggage and you'll go with baggage. How do you make sense of it? Indians were traders from the Harappan times. So it's a simple balance sheet. Balance sheet. You come with debt and when you go, debt. Rin. Kitna rin hai tera? Bol. So everybody comes to earth burdened with debt, tries to get rid of the debt. If you pay off all your debt, you get freedom from debt, which is moksha. Otherwise, more debt. So Guruji will tell you, you give me your money and all debt is removed. And it's not funny, right? We know gurus do that. Many of them, brilliantly. It's the best marketing strategy in the world. But this concept of debt is what defines Indian culture. Rin. Mujhe rini hai, tu rini hai. You owe it. To who do you owe? And then the conversation is complex. You owe it to your ancestors. Pitra rin. So you have to produce children for the next generation. Otherwise, how will the ancestors be reborn? So that is why Indians are obsessed with getting their children married and producing children. Bacha paida kar. Because Pitra Rin, the Shraddh ritual which happens in India, in China, they will just, for them, the ancestors are, we will not make you ashamed of our behavior. In India, it is, we'll produce children, Baba, chhod do humko. So Agastya Muni tried to do tapasya and the ancestors came to him cawing like crows. Ki bachcha paida kar, bachcha paida kar. So he went looking for a wife called Lopamudra. Lopamudra said, I will marry you, no problem. Lekin ghar bana, flat bana, gaadi. So he had to start working. And that is how his journey starts into the world. So then family life is important to pay off the debt of ancestors. So Buddhism talks about paying off your debt by not wanting anything. When you don't want anything, you don't owe anyone anything and you're free. The Brahmin said, no, you owe something to your parents, you have to take care of them. You owe something to society, you have to pay them. You have to follow your vocation. You owe something to your children. And so when you see the Vedic, now look at the gestures. I have talked about gestures, right? So what is a traditional, very orthodox Brahminical gesture? Most well documented. There are such gestures across India. You will feed the gods like this. It's called Devarin. You will feed your family like this. Towards your heart. That's how we serve food, right? You try to serve food with the left hand, people will get very upset. You're always from the right hand towards the heart. You feed yourself. You feed your ancestors. And then you put food over here for the birds. Bhuta. For the spirits, for the plants and animals, you feed them like this. So plants, in the morning you'll put tulsi ke liye, you'll do like this. That is the act of feeding nature, of feeding the gods. You'll feed your family like this. Ancestors, yourself, and Pashu. Thus you pay your debt to the whole world. Because you are connected to everyone. It comes from a story. Story of rebirth. Your life is dependent on that. So rebirth plays such an important role. So when you're understanding, when you see the rituals, the first question you ask is rebirth. You start looking at the rituals. Then you suddenly, karma. This is what karma means. I remember around the world, everybody seems to understand karma. Karma is like, oh, Indians, karma is great. If you want to say bad things about India, it is karma. You want to say good things about India, it's karma. What is karma? You ask the definition and most probably the answer will be, as you sow, so you reap. That's a line from the Bible. That's a line from the Bible where you believe in one life, an afterlife. In the Indian model, it will be not as you sow, so you reap. It is phal ki chinta mat karo. Which means no guarantee. As you sow, so you reap is guaranteed. It's almost like an engineering feat. You sow apple seeds, you will get apple seeds. You sow datura, you will get datura. Indians will say you sow apple, you will get a pomegranate. You don't know. As you sow, every time you look at your children, you wonder, na? Kya socha tha? क्या निकला? Because phal ki chinta mat karo, Krishna is constantly telling, but we don't want to listen. I remember somebody saying that, Gita is the most successful motivational speech. I said, phal ki chinta mat karo is what your boss tells every time you ask for a raise. Phal ki chinta mat karo, tu kaam karte rahe, bas. Kabhi na kabhi, because this is accepting uncertainty. The uncertainty of life. Indian thought, because it is repetitive, it's not quite cyclical in the sense we think of it. It is saying that life is uncertain. There is no beginning, there is no end. So the stories don't have clear beginning and there is no ending. There is no genesis and apocalypse. What you have is anadi ananta. No beginning, no end. There is nothing. Buddha says, clear your balance sheets and go towards shunya, nirvana, oblivion, zero. Hinduism goes the opposite direction and says, actually the whole world is infinite. So merge with the infinite. The name of God is Ananta, infinity. Zero and infinity, two concepts India gave the world. It comes from rebirth. When did it begin? We don't know. When will it end? We don't know. And you are surprised that Indians do the Indian head shake. So when will India become prosperous? India will be a superpower. Yes. Shanghai, definitely. All possibilities exist. Why not? You all know it's phal ki chinta mat karo, sirf vote karo. This, because you have absolute confidence in your voting skills. Nothing else. There you have complete karmaneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Krishna is very clear. Remember, in Hinduism, therefore, God is not a judge. There is no concept of judgment day. There is no qayamat. So the story is different. There is no qayamat. When somebody says, qayamat ke din, I said, what qayamat? Where is the judgment day in India? And then somebody says, Garud Purana mein likha hai. Read it carefully. It is great marketing for the Brahmin who wants a cow. गाय का दान दो नहीं तो तुम वैतरणी में जलोगे. It is like saying if you don't use axe spray, the women won't follow you. We don't know. फल की चिंता मत करो, गाय देते रहोगे लेकिन वैतरणी में ही जलोगे. This is the thing. These stories are creating uncertainty. Let me tell you a story of how uncertainty is explained in the Mahabharata. It's the story of King Indra. It's one of my favorite stories of charity. Once upon a time, there was a great king who wanted to live in heaven all his life. So he was told, gift cows. So he did Godan. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cows. And really attained a lot of merit. Everybody blessed him. So he went to Swarg. He lived in Swarg for one day, which happens to be 1,000 years on earth. After one day, Indra looked at him and says, okay, time's up, khatam ho gaya. As tumhara jo balance sheet hai, as per it, you have got the benefit. You gave the cows, Swarg, one day, now you're out. He says, what do you mean I'm out? He says, either take rebirth or remain suspended in purgatory. He says, I don't understand. I have done so much of charity. He said, you got the benefit now, one day in heaven. He says, if you can find, then negotiation, like all Indians. Bol, via media kya hai? Bol. So he says, okay, theek, to go to earth. If one person remembers you, you can come back to heaven for one more day. If one person remembers you, one creature remembers you, 1,000 years have passed, he comes down to earth, nobody remembers Indradumna or his great charitable acts. He starts to cry, and then he says, what do I do? He goes to the oldest man on earth, Markandeya. Markandeya says, I don't remember you. He goes to the oldest crow in the world, Kakabhusandi. He says, I don't know. He says, let's go and meet the oldest turtle on earth, Akupara. They go and meet and he looks and he says, Indradumna, I have heard this name. This lake is named after Indradumna. So Indradumna said, but I have never built a lake. This must be some other Indradumna. He says, no, there was a great king Indradumna. My grandfather told me about him. He used to donate cows a lot. And whenever the cows would walk, they would kick dust, godhuli. So much dust was kicked up that a depression formed in the soil. And when it started to rain, the depression got filled with water and became a pond. And when it became a pond, plants grew, animals grew, fishes, crabs, frogs, turtles, snakes came there. And they thrived and thrived and thrived. One of the turtles was my grandfather, who told me that the lake was built by Indradumna's Godan. And he says, oh, you are the Indradumna. Because of you, I have a home. And Indradumna is happy. Somebody remembered me and he goes back to heaven. But then he realizes something wonderful. He realizes that there is no certainty in life. He thought he was going to heaven for donating cows. He stayed in heaven for a lake he had never built. We don't know what our actions can do. There is fal ki chinta mat karo. The story is talking about uncertainty. It's about how life is uncertain and we are trying to make it certain. The rebirth, so if there is one concept in India called rebirth, the other concept is uncertainty. There are no guarantees. There are no guarantees. There is no right way, and therefore there is diversity in India. Because there is no right way, there cannot be one book, one language, one God, one way of thinking. There cannot be. Diversity is because I don't know what works for you. What's good for the goose is not good for the gander. तो करो जो करना है करो. ये भगवान चाहिए, वो भगवान चाहिए, भगवान नहीं चाहिए. फल की चिंता मत करो. It's a very different way. So diversity is rooted in the idea of rebirth. Because I am not sure. I don't know. If you ask the beginning of every story, whether it's Ramayana or Mahabharata, they will say, I heard the story from so-and-so, and he heard the story from so-and-so, and he heard the story from so-and-so. Basically he's saying, I'm not sure what I'm telling you. It's called a disclaimer. That is how disclaimers are written. I don't know. Or the story from the Brahmana literature. Some of the oldest stories, one of the oldest stories in India. Once upon a time, there's a rishi who studies the Vedas beautifully in one life. When he dies, the next life he's born, again he studies the second Veda. Then the third life he comes and studies the third Veda. And then he's like so excited because in the next life, the fourth life, he'll read the fourth Veda. But this time Indra appears before him and says, what do you want? He says, I want another life so that I can learn the fourth Veda and I'll know every Veda. And he says, I'm offering you heaven exchange. You don't have to you've done enough. Chal, heaven ko aaja. He says, no, but I want to know the fourth Veda. So Indra says, okay, let me teach you something. Come with me. You want to understand the Veda? You see that mountain over there? Go to that mountain and find the Veda there, the fourth Veda. When he goes there, he finds not a mountain, but a mountain of books, each of which is a Veda. And he's told that, you know what, in an entire lifetime, you can read only one of them. How many lifetimes have you gone through? 3. You've read 3. Next life, you'll read the 4th one. But all that mountain that you can see, that is the Vedas, all of it. You'll never finish it in infinite lives. 4 is good enough. So tension mat le. You will never know everything. You are a finite being in an infinite universe. Calm down. You will never control it. You will never change it. The ethos is very different. The story is telling you about your insignificance. The same story is told in Jainism. Once upon a time, there was a king called Bharat, after whom India is called Bharat. He goes on top of a mountain to carve on the mountain rocks that he has conquered all of India. When he goes up there, he sees another carving, says, I came to this mountain thinking I had conquered India, but someone had done it before me. And then he sees another carving saying the same, and another carving saying the same. Thousands and thousands of carving, each one saying that they have conquered India. But they thought they were the first. They were not. It is called the Denominator of Infinity, where you're reduced to insignificance. Through stories, an idea is being communicated. They are telling you that, 33 koti devataएं हैं, एक उठा लो. And you suddenly realize what they're trying to say about the value of human life. Meaning. Remember, I began with meaning. If you are told that there is an infinite universe, you're being told effectively your life is meaningless. And you're like, oh my God, this is like nihilism. I can do anything I want. Doesn't matter. So, sab chhod do, sab tyag do. Or the opposite. Epicurean. Bhog vilas mein jiyo. The Charvak method. So you have all options. But then you are told that, you know what? There's something that the human imagination can do that animals cannot do. You can be empathetic to other people's hunger. Humans are the only creature with imagination, and because we have imagination, we can imagine other people's hunger. And there are millions of people in the world, you can imagine everybody's hunger, theoretically. So whose hunger are you imagining all the time? Your hunger or another person's hunger? And therefore they created not one heaven, but 3 heavens in India. They said there's Swarg. Swarg is where Indra lives. And all his hunger is satisfied. Because he has got the wish-fulfilling tree, he has got the wish-fulfilling cow, he has got the wish-fulfilling jewel. So whatever he desires will be satisfied. So that is Swarga. Is that the heaven you want? A place where all your desires are satisfied. But the problem with Swarga is it is always being attacked by asuras. Indra has everything, all that he wants, except peace of mind. Because everybody else wants what he has. Because he has cornered all the world's resources. So everybody wants what he has. So he's constantly fighting. Swarg is under siege. He's never able to enjoy. He's hoarded all the things. He's got everything he desires for his hunger. But every time he starts to eat, someone starts to fight with him. Because they want what he has. That is Swarg. So there's another heaven. They say, oh God, I don't want to indulge my hunger. I don't want to be hungry at all. I want to destroy my hunger. And therefore you have Kailas Parbat, Shiva. And now look at a calendar poster of Shiva very carefully. We are told darshan karo, darshan karo. There is no image of Indra. But you have an image of Shiva. It's a family photograph, if you notice carefully. Father, mother, 2 sons. Each one has their own vehicle. Very autonomous people. Around Shiva's neck, there is a snake. What do snakes eat? Rats. Where is a rat? Next to Ganesha. Who eats a snake? Peacock. Where is the peacock? With Kartikeya. The goddess, Shakti, rides a tiger or lion, depending on which part of India you come from. What do tigers and lions eat? Bulls. That is Nandi. Shiva's bull, but Shiva's bull doesn't seem to be scared of Parvati's. Of course, we can say that Parvati's tiger is vegetarian. But if he's vegetarian, what does he eat? Because on Kailas Parbat, there is no tree. There is no vegetation. It is a stone mountain covered with snow. Nothing grows there. What will you eat? But you see, in Kailas, there is no hunger. If there is no hunger, there is no need for food. So in Swarga, you have all the food you want, but no peace. So prosperity without peace. Now in Kailas Parbat, there is no prosperity because you don't need food. Very peaceful, but no prosperity. Garib. Nothing. So Shiv Mahadev, very nice. Everybody loves Shiva. I always say, very nice. Pot smoking. Kuch nahi karne ka. And then you have Vaikunt. And in Vaikunt, you have another heaven where there is a god who sleeps and he's sleeping all the time until he's kicked and awoken and there's problems on earth. So he comes from, Narayan comes down to earth. And this act of coming down is called avatarana. He comes down, that's called an avatar, to solve problems on earth. Knowing fully well, phalki chinta mat karo applies to him also. He was not, whatever solution he gives is not permanent because the yuga will change. It will never end. Another Asura will be born, but he'll come and help and go back and go and help and it will never end. It will never end till Pralaya, then again he'll go back to sleep. Again he'll wake up, again he'll try to solve problems thinking, but none of the solutions are permanent because all problems will come back again and again and again like rebirth. So Vishnu is always smiling and doing the Indian head shake. Will it work? Of course. Will it not work? Who knows? Enjoying life, solving problems because he's focused on other people's hunger. His hunger, he has conquered long ago. He has got what is called the knowledge of the whole world, where he says that it's cyclical, it's not certain, there is no beginning, there is no end, there is no certainty, nothing lasts forever. To karte raho. The small momentary pleasures of life. So he will dance in Madhuban knowing very well the Ras Leela is going to come to an end. He will be Ram Rajya knowing fully well in Ram Rajya the unhappiest person is going to be Ram. He is going to Dharma Sthapana in Kurukshetra knowing fully well at the end of it he is going to get the curse of Gandhari. The gods don't live happy lives. Ram does not have a happy ending. Krishna doesn't, but they are all at peace, they are always smiling because nothing lasts forever, not even sorrow. It will come back again and again and again and again. And then you suddenly understand how the stories are designed, whether it's a funeral ritual, whether it's a Nataraj dance, whether it is Swarg, whether it is Vaikunt, whether it is Kailas, all these are part of Hindu mythology. And they're coming from the common yearning for meaning. Meaning in a world that has no beginning, no end, where there are no certainties. That's what India is, right? Full of diversity. We all come with baggage, we go with baggage. We are not going to resolve all the problems, no matter how hard we try. So just relax and have the wine. Thank you.
So you just mentioned that this is going to be cyclical. So what after Kalki Yuga?
Starts all over again. It's like cyclical is the best way to understand it is that, you may be the wisest person on earth, but the child you will create will be born stupid. Wisdom does not get transmitted through osmosis. And therefore, the stupid people are being born every day. So you become smart, but you create stupid. Cyclical. So that's what life is about. So.
I wanted to ask this in Jaya when they go to heaven and they find he finds that the Kauravas are there in heaven. I've been wanting to ask this question forever.
फल की चिंता मत करो.
You mean to say that there's something like Greek philosophy should have? There's nothing.
You can say the word. It's okay. I won't be offended.
No, it's saying that what's your problem? You came to heaven, na?
But his brothers and his wife didn't.
Tough. Boo-hoo.
But
Why?
you say that there is no meaning, that there is no governance, there is no nothing. No right, no wrong.
How does he know what is right and wrong? How do you know what is right and wrong? How does anybody know what is right and wrong?
Then what's the whole point?
Have wine. No, it's serious. The question is, why do you assume the Pandavas are good? Why do you assume that? Where's the assumption coming from? Where's the assumption coming from?
They were held by Vishnu.
So, Ram established Ram Rajya and did not have a wife or children. His children lived in the jungle. Is there justice? Justice is not a Hindu concept. You are coming from the paradigm of justice. And justice is based on Judgment Day. I just said Hinduism doesn't have the concept of Judgment Day. You think karma is equal to justice. As you sow, so you reap. So if you sow good things, you will get good things. But I just said, phal ki chinta mat karo. When I say phal ki chinta mat karo, it means if you do good things, doesn't necessarily mean you'll go to heaven. Does it mean you'll stop doing good things? Or are you doing good things because you will go to heaven? You tell me. Will you stop doing good things? See, you're looking for an answer. I'm not a guru. I am giving you entertainment. Yeah? If you want a solution, find a guru. Same thing. The question is, you're looking for answers. What if I say there are no answers? So what do you want to do? If you drink, go ahead. You want to kill? Go ahead. The world will continue. That's what is being told. You are seeking a final full stop, a code of conduct which will work for everybody. What works for you will not work for the next person. That's the whole idea. That's the story which has been told. But we can't accept it. Buy my books.
How does caste apply to this system of rebirth? Because caste is so locked in. So how does this apply to somebody who's
Do you mean caste or untouchability?
Which includes untouchability.
No, caste and untouchability are two different topics.
So how do the untouchables become?
No, untouchability has nothing to do with karma. It is to do with your refusal to give people dignity. That has nothing to do. No, it's not. Caste is, why are you born with a male body or a female body, or why are your parents stupid? Why were they poor? Like, I'm very upset that my father was poor. I mean, why couldn't you be rich? Do you choose your parents? You don't. How do you explain these things? You say karma. But after that, every decision that you take is also karma. You choose to discriminate against people is also karma. And the price of discriminating is also karma. So if I treat you badly and I get slapped in exchange, both are karma. But then, of course, there is no formula. There is no algorithm. Fal ki chinta mat karo. So if you say, if you do good, good things will happen to you, that is also not true. If you do bad, bad things will happen, that is also not true. So what do I do? And that is why it is about whose hunger are you bothered about. Because Indra, whose hunger is completely satisfied, cannot eat. He is not able to eat. Because every time, he's like Tantalus in Greek mythology. Every time he tries to eat, somebody attacks him. So the one with all the food in the world cannot eat it. The one without hunger has no food. But he can't feed other people. So he's useless. So what do you want to be in life? So the narratives are far more complex than the way people want to. They justify things, but justification is from a judgment paradigm. We have understood Hinduism using the judgment paradigm for the last 200 years. Justice is not a Hindu concept. It's not there at all. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. That's the line from where justice comes. Kshama, all these words are used now, repentance and all that, but it is basically a simple act of violence is complex. When Ram is killing Ravan, there will be a backstory saying that Ravan is actually his bhakt and therefore this has happened. So you don't know whether it's an act of anger or compassion. So that uncertainty of life is what is continuously and repeatedly told in all the scriptures. The moment you bring in certainty into Hinduism, it doesn't work. It is describing the human condition. Yeah?
I just wanted to understand, you said that there's a debit in credit. Does it mean that the debit never goes? That means you're always going to be in debit. That means that you never come into a positive thing.
The only way is to, see, the word I used is debt. I didn't use debit and credit. I just used the word debt. As long as you have debt, you have to repay the debt. Now, every time you repay the debt, you incur new debts. For example, Agastya Muni's story which I told, he said that his ancestors said, listen, we gave you life, you have to produce a life and repay the debt. So he goes, now he can't do it alone. He goes to his wife Lopamudra and says, help me produce children. She says, fine, build a house for me. So now he has to take debt in order to build a house and he has to repay that debt. But the house has running cost. OPEX bhi hota hai na. So now he has to earn for that.
Is there nothing as merging with the infinite?
See, these are words that are used. Let me put it this way. There is and there isn't. Again, you're asking for certainty, no? You are asking certainty. मेरे को clearly समझाओ कि ऐसा ही होता है मरने के बाद. And I'm like, okay, if you want it. What you're seeking is certainty. No matter how long the lecture will be an uncertainty, at the end of it, we'll seek certainty.
Yeah, but it's quite exasperating. You say the whole life is really meaning nothing.
No, I didn't say that.
But that's what it's coming to. When you say that you're going to be constantly in debt.
That's the way you are reading it. Maybe some people like being in debt. You don't want to be in debt. So Buddha doesn't want to be in debt, so he walks away from his wife and child. Shiva wants to be in debt, so he gets married and produces children and doesn't know how to get a job. What do you want to be, Shiva or Buddha? So Buddha is like, patni choda, bacche chode, rajya choda. शिव जी महादेव पहाड़ से गांजा खा रहे थे वहाँ पे, नीचे आ गए, शादी किया. Doesn't know how to get married but got married. Doesn't know to produce children but got produced children. Doesn't know how to have sex but wrote the Kama Shastra. Started singing and dancing, therefore created the arts. Still can't hold on to a job. He's the Kotwal of Banaras. So now one takes debt. The other has given up debt. You decide. The both spectrum are Indian. The Buddhist and Jain traditions are about giving up debt. So Digambara. So the Digambara, and Shiva is also called Digambar, but this is Digambar who goes and wears Pitambar. And once you come down, that is why Kashi is important. Kashi is a bazaar. And Kailas Parbat mein bazaar nahi hota. So shouldn't he be staying there? Why does he come down? So the story is about what is wrong in being in debt. दूसरे को खाना खिलाने में इतने तकलीफ है. So the argument is, Buddha has gone, he never thought of his wife's desires. He said, desire is the cause of suffering, give up desire. But is feeding a child wrong therefore? Because the child is hungry for food. The wife is hungry for intimacy. The kingdom is hungry for a king. He abandons all three. So these are the tension points of India. The one is going towards Shunya, the other is going to... And then, of course, we came up with, again, a biryani kind of thing, mix everything and says, so it is not about going into nirvana, which is zero, it is uniting with the infinite. What does it actually mean? What does it mean? At the fundamental level, it's a very nice sentence, but uska matlab kya hai? At a very practical level, do you feel, तुम खाना खाते हो या खिलाते हो या व्रत रख के कुछ नहीं खाते हो, ना खाते हो ना खिलाते हो, and we know what that happens when that happens. Bhog, vilas, temples are places. In Hindu temples were the contrast of the Buddhist monastery. The Buddhist monastery, when you go, there was silence. Everybody is meditating and their eyes are shut. Go to the Hindu temple. देवदासी नाच रहे हैं, गा रहे हैं, झांकियां हो रही है, there is, you see Ganpati is coming. It is a non-stop party in the city. You don't like it, leave the city. जाओ तुम्हारे पहाड़ में जाके बैठो. हम लोग को नाचेंगे, गाएंगे, दारू पिएंगे, तुमको तकलीफ क्या है? Now that is ऋण. भगवान भी आएंगे, बोलेंगे मैं भी तेरे साथ नाचूंगा. Because it is feeding the other. So the concept of feeding, I have not gone deeper into it for that. इतना पैसा में इतना ही मिलेगा. But this, you see, certainty is one thing that one must be careful of. Anyway.
Okay, so which book?
For 50 are there, all 50. 50. Madam is buying 50 books. उनसे ले लो. Yeah.
I have actually 3 questions, so I'll...
No, one question.
One question. Can you...
फल की चिंता मत करो.
Can you explain the Purushartha and the policy of Samdand?
No, I'm binding all and बोल के 3 question पूछ रहे हो ना.
Yeah, you can answer.
We are also Indian, na? Yeah. So, no, ask me about the lecture, na? Ask me about the lecture. Yeah? What did you not understand in the lecture?
Yeah, I understood a lot. I have read your book, Mithya. Mithya, so I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Just one question
Yeah.
is about, you mentioned about Qayamat Din. In Hinduism also we understand that there is something called Pap Punya, and then when the life ends, we heard that there's also a Chitragupt who suggests you either you go left or you go right. So is that really a thing, or is it just a story again?
No, everything is a story. If you ask a humanities professor, they'll say your masculinity is a social construct. उसका मतलब क्या है? एक कहानी है. So कहानी से तो भाग नहीं सकते. Now what is Pap and Punya? Is killing a child good or bad? Infanticide, good or bad? I don't think many parents would agree, but Ganga kills her children. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Father says, you should not kill the 8th child. And that one decision results in the Mahabharata war. The entire Mahabharata war is based on saving a child. The entire Mahabharata war is based on this one child who she decides to save. Because Ganga is called divine, which means she has access to more knowledge than the human. But the human is so disturbed by the action of the infinite that says, I will control it. Ye paap hai. You decided it is paap. It is just karma. It is action. Is it good to establish dharma? Krishna establishes dharma. His family is cursed. Ram established Ram Rajya. His children are raised in the forest. Will you establish dharma or Ram Rajya? So, when you say Pap and Punya, we are looking for certainties. These are structures. In fact, Pap and Punya is an idea emerged in the Jatakas. In the Jatak Kathaएं, they started emerging. This whole idea of certainty. Tell me if I do these things, this will happen. Guruji, upay bataiye. So the Shishupala story is very famous, where the mother asked Krishna that forgive my son 100 times or 1,000 times. And he says, okay. Mother forgets to tell the son, don't offend Krishna. She says, now my son will save forever. But the son upsets Krishna more than 1,000 times and his head is cut. You cannot control the world, is what you are being told repeatedly. Everything has collateral damage. That is the karma idea. Therefore, there is no happily ever after in India. There is no unhappily ever after also. That is what this idea is. Yeah.
Hi. So, could you tell us the Shabri story? Because although I've heard it 100 times, but I love the way you tell it.
Website www.devdutt.com, Shabri, search word, you'll get it. The thing is, see, there are many stories that we can tell and we can discuss, but resources are always finite. Yeah?
I just wanted to ask, from where do you know all of this?
Actually, the answer is simple. It's Google. See, having access to Google and remembering it is a different thing. I think the magic is not in the stories. The magic is in connecting the dots. So you don't just listen to a story. Story is easy. Everybody can tell a story. It is catching that word which makes it different. Everybody knows. Everybody says judgment day. I say there is no judgment day. Puran, Varan, kahin, Ramayana, Mahabharata, kahin pe nahi hai. When we use words like heaven and hell, we want to map it with one life civilization. These are English words. The Hindi word swarga doesn't mean heaven. It's an English translation. Swarg doesn't mean heaven at all. Narak doesn't mean hell at all. It just means a dark place.
Who decides who goes to the dark place and who goes above?
Kauravas therefore land up in?
But is this
So maybe you should be a Kaurava and take your chances.
Hindu concept? Where are the words coming from?
Huh?
If
Sorry.
this is not a Hindu concept, are these words borrowed from somewhere else?
No, the word Swarg Narka is there. Heaven and hell is the new English words that we are using. Translate the word karma. Swarga I just explained, indulgence. Narak is a place where you're always hungry. So, where you're always hungry is Narak. When you have all the food in the world but can't enjoy it, it is Swarg. When you're not hungry, it is Kailas. Now, what do you want? Remember, there's a book out there called Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish. So, basically, it means be in Narak all the time. Pisacha. Pisacha is a person who is always hungry. So, the worst curse you can get is to be forever hungry. Hungry, hungry. Even while dying, you're hungry because you want to control. Easiest way to find out is find out how many people have made their wills. And then you will figure out how much control there is. Go to the just go and find out how many property disputes are there in Bombay High Court. And how parents have created some complicated wills because they want to control even after death. So that, the desire to control, it does come down, ultimately it comes down because you can't handle uncertainty. We cannot handle the fact that we are not significant. But we are of value to the other. This is the only real. I can be consumed by the other. That's the only reality, that you can bring value to other people's lives in the way they want it. That's the real thing. But that's it. When you are not of value to the other, they are like, they don't pay attention to you anymore. And then like the tree which stops giving fruit, you're forgotten. But then when you die, the wood comes from the tree. So this, when you study nature, Vedas are called apurusheya, not of human origin, which means it's of natural origin. Not of human, it's not supernatural. It means look at nature. Do you remember the mango tree from where you eat the mangoes? But you enjoy the mangoes, right? You are the mango tree and somebody is enjoying the mangoes. You will be forgotten. Thank you. Thank you so much.